3 years ago, I gave my very first TED Talk. And in it, I talked about the common misconception that people have about what it takes to get to the life that you really want. The key takeaway from that talk was, many of us think that to get to the life you want, you've got to nail this one big cosmic choice that comes once in a lifetime, and if you screw it up, you're going to be a failure. But that's not true. Your life is actually the sum total of a series of small, trivial-looking, everyday choices that you consistently make towards a certain direction. Choices like, should you do the brave thing or the not brave thing? Should you do the cool thing or the not? Those are the things that actually matter more than you think. So, as a consequence of that, whenever I get asked to speak on panel, one of the most common questions that I get at Q&A from young people was this one. Should I follow my passion, or should I just be really practical and just take whatever opportunities that come before me? And that is a very, very Singaporean question to ask. And when I hear that, I'm in deep empathy for them. Because you see, at the turn of the millennium, we were telling young people, just throw caution to the wind, take a risk on your dreams, and life will take care of itself. And if you Google follow your passion, and you look at the images tab, you'll get this kind of like Pinterest-worthy, inspirational words and stuff. What is really fascinating, though, is if you look at that same Google search and you check out the web tab, you actually see a good 3 to 4 pages, I kid you not, of article after article slamming follow your passion, right? And look, the top article quotes Steve Jobs himself. So this is like from thought leaders, from industry leaders, from big-time magazines like Fast Company, and they're all saying, follow your passion is like the suckiest advice ever, please don't do it. And this is a tremendous backlash that has been happening in the good last 2 to 3 years. Let me save you some time. I read the articles for you. And these are the big 4 things that they usually say. Please don't follow your passion because, number one, your passions are just so fickle. They change all the time. And second of all, I hate to break it to you, but some of you really suck at your passions. And that causes problem number 3, which is when you suck, no one wants to pay for it. And you can't build a career of that. And last of all, number 4, isn't follow your passion just a little bit entitled and selfish? It's harsh. It's harsh, but it's true. And so it has resulted in cartoons like this. So I love this cartoonist, and I love this cartoon, but I have to say, it is also very unhelpful to someone who is genuinely in struggle about what do I choose? Should I follow my passions, or should I follow like this practical stuff? And the picture is paralyzing because as long as you are human, you're always going to want both. We want to fulfill our adult responsibilities, and we want the utter nonsense of our butterfly dreams. So to be told that there is no such thing as a middle road, no middle path that merges both, is a very hard and bitter pill to swallow. And I actually think it's not entirely truthful as well. So what I often tell these kids on panel is this. Follow your passion, it is actually quite terrible advice if it's stand-alone advice, for all of the reasons that those guys said. But we ignore our passions at our peril, so I wouldn't dismiss that either. See, what I think is we need a far deeper understanding of what passion really means. See, there is a distinction between passions with a small p and passions with like a big, deep capital P, and that's the stuff I'm talking about. And you can hear the difference in terms of the emotions and the stories that people attach to it. So there is a difference between hearing someone, or even yourself, talk like this. When I play the drums, I feel like it's so cool, I can't wait to do it, and I'm so happy to go for drum class. And hearing yourself or someone talk like this. Look, this sounds stupid, but when I play the drums, I come alive. This is who I want to be, and this is who I am. The difference that you're hearing is the level of stakes. For this person here, the stakes are much lower. If you tell them don't follow their passion, it's not that big a deal. But for this person, it's a high-stakes game. To tell them don't follow your passion is tantamount to telling them don't follow a part of themselves that makes them feel fully human. It is one of their big whys, the big existential why am I here? What was I born to do? What is all this about? So I do think we have to allow this kind of thing. We have to let people follow this passion. But if we're telling them that, we also got to tell them another truth, which is if you're pursuing this passion, you're also pursuing a very special kind of suffering. That shouldn't surprise us, because if you look at the original meaning of the word passion, it comes from the Latin root word pati, which is to suffer. In the movie Whiplash that came out last year, we see like this young jazz drummer who's like driving himself completely bonkers, bloodying himself to play at the highest of standards that his passion calls him to, and also that the standards that his equally like passionate, crazy mentor calls him to as well. And if you are happy in your mediocrity and you watch this movie, it can be an incredibly crazy watch. One of the most powerful and venomous statements spat out in that movie by the mentor was this: there are no two words more harmful in the English language than good job. And when you're in the audience and you hear it, you're like, whoa, okay, that's psychotic much. It's true, the movie does paint a portrait of passion at its most dysfunctional, even delusional. But it's also telling us a hard truth. If more and more of us are not prepared to go the full length and breadth and depth of suffering that our passion wants to bring us through, then the world will also never see the full length and breadth and depth of possibilities for goodness, for greatness, for beauty, for change that are locked inside us. Our deepest of passions were put in us for a purpose. In them is locked all of the possibilities that the world needs to see. And I get it. I understand why few people actually want to do it, because following your passion sounds great and looks good on a poster, but it can be quite awful. The reality is it's hard. It's really hard. And we all want that glossy magazine picture of success without all of the preceding chapters of like, oh, trouble and toil and suffering. It sucks. I want that too. This is a newspaper picture of me and my co-founders of the Thought Collective, and it was taken halfway through our 13-year-long journey. We were still in our 20s, and we are smiling and happy and still naive, and the happiness that you see in there is a part of the truth. We were happy. There were a lot of good stories, there still are. But that picture also doesn't capture another side of the story, which is there were also just as much bad stories. There was a lot of blood and brutality and bad stuff, and it was tough to go through. When I gave my first TED Talk, it was 10 years down the journey, and that year, we went through a huge financial crunch, and at the same time, we had betrayal from business partners and all that. It was a terrible year, but it was also a good year, and both things come together on this journey. I guess another reason why we stay in it is because we realize it's a long-haul game. When you follow your passions, you gotta be prepared to go for a long journey. It was only at our 10th year mark where we suddenly started to develop some insights that we felt were worth sharing on a big public platforms, and we do often, like on platforms like TED. So this is one of the insights I would like to share with you. In our strange line of work, the business of empathy, whatever that means, right? We get to hear many, many stories from all sorts of people. We're privileged at. And we realize that whether you are a minister in parliament, or an old man dying in his last days in a hospice, or you're just a kid struggling to just pass that A-levels once and for all, we realize that every single one of us is bound by a singular experience. We all, in this room, we work and live and play within the boundaries of two meta-stories in the world: the story of how things should be and the story of how things are. And every single one of us can perceive both in ourselves and around. And all of us are also born with a very profound desire and instinct to see the day that our expectations and our reality meet, once and for all. But meanwhile, we live in the gap. And the wider the gap that we perceive in ourselves and around us, the greater is our suffering, the greater is our tension. It's a terrible place to live in. It's vulnerable, it's humiliating, and we just want it to go away. So all of us try to mitigate that tension in one of two ways. Some of us are more prone towards being practical. We want to take our expectations and just bring it down to reality because this is how things are. Life's like that, suck it up, let's just go. And if you tend to do that, these are the emotions that you'll tend to live in. Fear, anxiety, cynicism, peace, stability. These are not right or wrong emotions. They are just the emotions that naturally come up if you tend to do that. And my concern is really just for those who do it in the extreme. They stay down there and they never ever go up. If you are an extreme pragmatist, you will end up in the emotion of inertia and apathy. Why bother to do anything? It's like that. That's just how things are. Some of us might tend towards idealism. So what we'll do is we'll take reality and we'll drag it right up to the top and we'll say like, come on, like aim for the stars, eyes on the prize, go for gold, come on, we can do it. So if you are like that, you will tend to live in the emotions of ambition, wonder, curiosity, or actually anger and resentment. That's not how things should be. I want it like that. And again, these are not right or wrong emotions. They're just what you will tend to feel if you're like that. And again, my concern is only for those who live in the extreme. The extreme idealists want to live up there and they'll never descend down here. And they are the ones who will tend towards contempt or delusion. And my concern is those people who take follow your passion as standalone advice. This is the realm they live in. Follow your passion will make you sometimes contemptuous of those who don't live up there. They are not where they should be. Or you could be up there and you have complete delusion about the way you really are, which is you're not that great, you know. So, but what we discovered in all of the stories that we hear is that the very best people, the ones doing the very best of work, and by best I mean the most sustainable, the most healthy, the ones which reaped joy, not just for themselves, but for everyone around them, they were the ones who chose deliberately and mindfully to live in the gap. They didn't go to this extreme or this extreme. They may have the tendencies, but they never went to the extremes. And they lived in this gap, and they were willing to be authentic about it. And they would be saying things like, I see how I want things to be. I see how it really is. It's like that. I'm gunning for this, but I'm also trying so hard to overcome this. And those who are willing to be authentic and vulnerable about their passions and their pain points open up a common space that allows someone else to step in and say, me too. And it's only in the space of the me too, in the space of empathy, where you take your passion and you turn it into compassion, where opportunity and innovation and creativity and collaboration and all of these big words, the things that we really want, actually happen only in this space. When we're willing to take our passion and mature it into compassion. There's a lot of talk about, where is the future of opportunity? Where's the jobs? I'm so scared about like whether I'll get employment in the future. And maybe those fears will go away if we just take it like that. All work is essentially about being able to perceive someone's pain point or someone's passion and being willing and able to solve it. If you see that there will always be pains and passions in the world and you're willing to sit down and hear it, you will never run out of opportunity. There's a lot of talk about, Singapore is a complaining culture, but really, every complaint and actually every yearning that you hear is a niche market waiting to happen. And maybe you'll say, well, that's all fancy theory, and maybe it is. But let me close with just this story. I actually shared this story in my first TED Talk, and there's a sequel to it. So let me give some background. So we run a school called School of Thought, and we teach kids how to broaden their perspectives there. And we came across this girl who had excellent English. She was really good at writing argumentative writing. And we knew she came from a very humble background. Her father was a Karanguni man. It's a guy who goes door to door taking second-hand goods that nobody wants, and he sells it for money. So we asked her, how is it that your English got so great, knowing your background? She didn't give us an answer straight off, but she went home and she WhatsApped this picture to us. And she said, you're right. I am not rich enough to have tuition, like a lot of kids. But there was you don't know this, but there was one day I was going with my dad on one of his rounds, and we came across this household, this rich household where the kid obviously finished his exams. He was giving away all these magazines, and I took these magazines. And this was my tuition. I studied them back to front, line by line, and this was what I studied. This is a picture of some of our early editions of the current affairs magazines that we chose to produce, even though we knew there was not a real ready market yet, and it was very costly for us, and we didn't know what kind of impact it would create. So when we heard this story, we were greatly, greatly encouraged. And she's gone on to become one of our best interns and writers and all that, and I thought the story ended there. But 2 months ago, we were experimenting with another weird, let's create these complex, empathetic learning experiences. And we're running it in Malaysia for 300 kids. And one of the games was called the Game of Defense, where we simulated a situation of war to show the kids how fast we would descend into throwing out the rules and into aggression, and how angry and helpless that would make you feel, and yet how there was still opportunity for you to stand up for the beliefs that you had. And the game was quite controversial, but most of the kids liked it, and we thought that was that. When we came back to Singapore, we got an SMS from this girl, and she said, "You don't know this, but my brother was one of the boys that was playing this game, and we have always known that he had witnessed acts of violence before in his life, but we could never talk about it. There was just this silence in the family, and we didn't know how to breach that wall. He's in my room right now, and he's talking to me about it for the first time. Thank you for doing what you do. Keep doing it." And when I hear stories like that, I think that's enough. Whatever I have to go through, I live for those stories. So yes, following your passions will cost you. It is a special kind of suffering. But when you choose to take your passions and connect them and expand them so that they meet the passions and the pain points of the world, you create possibilities that you would never have been able to predict. So yes, follow your passions because they matter more than you think. But don't just stop there. Master them. Mature them and expand them so that they don't become just passions, but they become compassions. And then and only then can you forge them into opportunity. Thank you.